morning and welcome once again to Crossfire with Dakbo and Ishioma. We want to say thank God it's Friday. We're back here to just engage you as we prepare to approach the polls come a few hours from now. Agitations are all over the places, especially in some states of the Federation where a lot of security issues are being attended to by the security chiefs, especially this time around by the Inspector General of Police, where we have a lot of security beef-ups around a couple of states that are likely going to be volatile or is promising not to have a very peaceful elections. We will talk about Rivers State, we'll talk about Lagos State, and a few other states that security issues are being really looked into as we speak. Welcome once again. My name is Dapo Banjo, and I have Ishoma with me to drive this show. Barrister Ishoma Again, how are you today?
I'm very fine, thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and you're welcome to the show today.
All right, let's go quickly into the business that we have today. Yesterday evening, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's Professor Atari Jega, issued a few statements as it borders around the elections on Saturday. And so we will be looking at a couple of issues that he raised in that particular press conference, and then we will be analyzing it vis-a-vis the preparation for elections tomorrow. And then we will take you through a couple of trending stories as it borders around a couple of states that have been marked red as elections take place from tomorrow. All right, Ishema, we look into the statement, coming from the police headquarters. Lagos police deploy 36,204 personnel, armored carriers, gunboats, for Saturday polls. And that is to let you know that the elections in Lagos State is expected to be calm, but while we work towards it being calm, security needs to be doubled or tripled in Lagos, as it were. We mentioned on the show yesterday, what do you think the security should be like, considering a lot of build-ups and so many agitations, especially when the Oba of Lagos made that fallacious, inflammatory, derogatory statement about, our Igbo brothers. And I tell you very sincerely, I believe all of this is pointing out to the reason why, it is needed, to have all of this. Let me quickly take that. The Lagos State Police Command has deployed no fewer than 36 2004 police personnel, 15 armored personnel carriers, 5 gunboats, and 2 helicopters, among all the security equipment to protect lives and properties and create peaceful environment for tomorrow's governorship and House of Assembly elections, making the pronouncement in a statement yesterday. Yeah. We talked about it, and that means, if you look at it very closely, for this to have been done between yesterday and now, there's every possibility that they have some information, as it borders around security for Lagos elections.
We know how it is in this part of the world where you have miscreants who just, all they sleep, eat, and breathe is mischief and trouble, fomenting trouble. So I like the fact that they had to, double up security, because it's possible that some miscreants may want to take advantage of that fact and then cause, trouble. But then it's good, but of course we all know that it's not just enough to deploy security personnel. Yes, you should deploy security personnel, but at the end of the day, Nigerians or Lagosians also have to be extra vigilant and sensitive. You are the one, we do not expect their armored carriers and all of that to patrol the nook and cranny of every part of Lagos State, their streets, your closes. You are the one who resides there. So you also have to be vigilant and pay particular attention. Just in case you see anything funny, immediately you should call the attention of any of these security men, or probably call them on their, on their call-out numbers, so that they could also beef up security in your neighborhood. Every life is important. That's it for me. Now,
it is really very important to let Nigerians know, for example, a couple of issues, that INEC had to quickly attend to as we approach polls in a few hours' time. And the most important thing was that INEC came up, and I mean, I think this obviously was as a result of close analysis of what happened during the presidential elections. INEC moved out all polling units in house attached to houses, attached to palaces, attached to worship centers. They took all of them out, relocated them to places where you really would not be able to, because if you probably have a polling unit attached to a particular house, and that house probably belongs to an Igbo man or a Yoruba man. I mean, considering the type of statement the Oba made, and all of that, don't you think? I mean, INEC is feeling there could be a possibility of a disagreement at a point in time during the polls, and so all polling units. We
also have security men on patrol.
Exactly, but I mean, more importantly,
also, but I don't really know how that will play out yet until tomorrow when we go out to the field and we see how it is. Because let's look at the structure of Lagos, for example. You have buildings, you have residential buildings everywhere. Yes. Is there any place to turn that you won't say residential building at least? No.
And you have even worship centers almost in every place.
And it's not like
if it's not a mosque, it's a church.
Thank you. And it's not like you have a park or something. If we had parks everywhere, of course, we have parks, but it's not like it's not predominant like in every community you find a park. If that was the case, then they would have said, okay, then the election venue will be this particular park in so-and-so community, this park. But of course, that's not the case. You have churches. That's what you have everywhere, churches. And what? Residential,
yeah, worship
houses.
centers,
so where
palaces.
will people vote then?
People will definitely.
Did they make this arrangement early enough for people to be able to locate their centers before tomorrow? These are some of the things, because on that day, a lot of persons will be confused and they'll be like, where is word G? Where is word Z? Where is word Q? So at the end of the day, a lot of persons
I think the movement is just slightly away from, these centers, not particularly, taking away completely and getting a lot of people confused and all of that.
A place like Oshodi, for example, or Bariga or Ojo. Is there any place that you won't find a residential building?
But
everywhere.
Don't forget that there is a law. There's a law against it in the electoral law. There is, a particular place there where this is not allowed. But because of the structure of our country, because of the nature, of our environment, you have a church or two churches or one mosque or two just within, a particular estate where people reside. And so, at a forum yesterday, let's take this. The body at a stakeholders forum said it became really very important to strategize to ensure that card reader work at every polling unit, timely distribution of materials, and conduct of elections in all units without exception. Meanwhile, the body has insisted that it remains illegal to site polling units in front of a house, palace, and religious centers, because this is something that is particularly against the electoral law. So even if we have it because we don't have an option, if we have, a scenario where you have an option, maybe slightly away from the initial, proposed site, a polling unit, why not? Since it is illegal in itself anyway. So it is not an attempt for INEC to actually cause a disruption in a way. It is just that they want to get it right. Every little glitches that were observed during the presidential election needs to be corrected or attended to, timely, to avoid whatever, situation that was experienced initially.
Let's also hope that INEC, whoever it is that takes over the leadership of INEC in preparation for the 2019, elections, maybe they could build probably, can I call that a mini camp, election camp, or some structures anyway, a way that aligns with the provisions of these laws, away from residential houses and religious
centers and all of that. All right, that is it for that. And we just hope INEC has gotten, all the necessary things in place to ensure that this does not lead to any form of confusion. Let's quickly take this. The Inspector General Police deploys special forces to Rivers State. The police have deployed special units to Rivers State as part of efforts to address security concerns in the state during Saturday's governorship and state assembly. This is contained in a statement issued by the first spokesman, Mr. Emmanuel Ojukwu. He came out yesterday and said, don't forget, during the presidential election, there were loads of, violences here and disruptions here and unrest in that place and, political unrest generally. But the most important thing is that they have finally stepped into the affairs in Rivers State to say, let us ensure that we don't have a repetition of what happened during the presidential election, in Rivers State. Don't forget that a couple of states, that have been marked red. Rivers State is one of them. So the Inspector General of Police actually deployed special forces, people, a special squad to help, just curb activities as far as the elections in Rivers State is concerned.
It's very good.
For me, we need to.
But I hope they will not be partial.
I believe so.
Upon anybody's command.
With the build-up and the steam, and the steam experienced during the presidential election in Rivers State, I think government will do everything, should do everything, let me put it that way, to ensure that we have a very smooth poll in Rivers State. And on a very sad note, Ishoma, one of President Goodluck Jonathan's special advisor on research, documentation and strategy, Mr. Oronto Douglas. This is somebody that I know has been an objective person, working very closely with the president in the last, few years. I have listened to him a couple of times, and I see him as one of his special advisors that is really very objective and balanced. I'm not saying this because, because he died. I'm saying this because I followed up very closely with Oronto, and I can tell you really very, sadly that this gentleman, have a very beautiful and bright career if his life has been spared. But, we want to reach out to the family of Mr. Oronto Douglas. I appreciated his work during, before Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed by the military junta. And it was really very sad. He fought really vehemently and he made statements.
He will also be remembered for his hard work. Nothing beats a good name, having a good name. Because even when we leave this world, the legacy is what you stood for, what you have done, right or wrong, will always speak for the person. And it's no surprise that a lot of people have been throwing praises across.
Anyway, we appreciate the dead in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria. We don't speak evil about the dead, even if they are evil in their lifetime. But he died on Thursday morning after a long battle with cancer-related ailment at the State House Clinic. He was 49 years old. President Goodluck Jonathan, special advisor on media and publicity, Dr. Reuben Abati, confirmed his death in a statement yesterday. The president described the disease as a worthy and shining example for Nigerian youth. He said he will always remember Douglas for his passion for work and outstanding commitment to duties. So at the same time, we just want to say, may the good Lord, grant him eternal rest and grant the family the fortitude to bear this irreparable loss. And we wish them well as they give him a befitting, burial, and they say bye-bye. And on that note, we will go on a short break. And then when we come back, we'll be addressing the statement of Professor Atairu Jega concerning the Saturday's election. You don't want to go nowhere. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. This is Crossfire with Dapo and Ishoma, and we've been looking at some trending stories as it borders around the elections tomorrow. In a few hours' time, Nigerians will be going en masse to vote their candidate of their choice that will man the seat in the various 28 states of the Federation, that elections will be taking place. We took you through a list 2 days ago on Wednesday specifically, the list of states that elections will be taking place and the ones elections will not be taking place. Elections will not be taking place in Ondo State. Elections will not be taking place in Ekiti State, Bayelsa State. Elections will not be taking place in the Federal Capital Territory. Elections will not be taking place in some other states like that, Ekiti State, Ondo State, Kogi State, about 8 states that we mentioned. I think I've counted them, right?
About 8 of them, yes.
Yeah, about 8 states that elections will not be taking place. And as at yesterday, information have it that there will be free movement in those states. But the Inspector General of Police came out very strong yesterday evening to say there will not be movement, even in the states where elections will not be taking place, to ensure that we don't have unnecessary movement from those states into, the neighboring states where elections will be taking place. So it is very instructive that the government in these concerned states take this precaution as instructed by the police head. Now, let's quickly look into all the statements that Professor Jega made yesterday. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has received report that some political leaders are asking members of the public to disregard a statement resolved to use the permanent voters card, the PVC, and the smart card reader. These are items, or they are particular instruments, let me put it that way, to be used for the elections on Saturday. A particular state governor in the North Central geopolitical zone is reported to have assured voters in the state that they could come out to vote on the election day with their TVC, the temporary voters card, if they do not have the PVC. And INEC will, INEC already said that this will not happen. If you don't have a PVC, please stay back at home. Don't even come out to come and attempt voting, let alone, getting clearance to vote.
Yeah, and anybody also who dares, on the day of the election, present a TVC and tries to insist and cause uproar, he or she will have his or herself to blame, because the security men obviously will be on ground for people like that to pick them up, arrest them, and make sure they're also prosecuted. So.
All right. As we open the phone lines soon, we expect that you will call in as usual to let us know exactly what is happening in your state as it borders around the elections tomorrow. Do you have security beefed up? Have you gotten any glimpse of what the elections environment will be like in your state? Let us know what you have seen. We announced yesterday that our eyewitness at cooltv.co is open to receive text messages, photographs, and even video recordings. So send every of your details that you want us to have and you want us to help publicize to hi, as in letter hi, witness at cooltv.co. All right, let's quickly look at the element of the statement made by Atari Jega yesterday. Members of the public are strongly advised to disregard false assurances that, that contradict the regulation INEC has outlined for the governorship and state assembly elections. This will make me ask you this question. Yeah. I keep wondering why Nigerian leaders, do not just comport themselves, in a manner that will allow, unheated polity, knowing fully well that this, the elections in 2015 is second to none in the history of elections in Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, I expect that we should have our leaders being in the forefront, to champion and pledge peace, to ensure that the polls, go smoothly as planned and expected. But you have our leaders, like the governor, making a statement that people should come out with their TVC and they will be allowed to vote.
The governor is supposed to know better. And if someone of
That's
his reputation...
That's the number one state in this particular state.
And if someone of his reputation and caliber goes out to make such statements, I can only advise that he sits back and watches, and he sits back and watches the video, the response which Professor Tahir Jega gave to... the other statesman, Mr. Gospel Orubebe, he should sit down and watch that video and take caution. Because you don't come out and say things, because this is enough to cause trouble on the day of the election. People will come out and be like, oh, but the governor said I can vote with my TVC. I want to vote, I must vote.
And if somebody in that caliber is the one making such a statement.
It's so wrong.
For me, this is just my thought. I believe that Professor Jega shouldn't have, concealed, the information or the details of this governor. He should have mentioned his name, and he should have, at least work with the security chiefs.
Give Nigerians evening, they will know who the person is.
That governor, as we speak, should be locked up. Or probably forced to make a public statement,
yes, to debunk that.
To debunk that statement. That if you don't have your PVC, please don't come out tomorrow. In case it was represented or misconstrued, then it can correct it publicly, addressing its nation. At least, I'm sure, whatever state it is, they have an NTA,
they have a
network,
a
state television
house,
station where you could go and address, the citizen of that state, or and for me, I think this is not something we should be hiding anymore. There is freedom of information, and I believe that if this statement was legitimately made by this governor, I expect that, Professor Atairu Jega should mention name and where and when and on what occasion this statement was actually made. It's very inflammatory, and it can actually, incite the populace to violence, even as we all go out to vote tomorrow. So let's use this platform once again to let every Nigerians know, and every state where elections will be taking place know, that elections will still be conducted with the use of your permanent voters' cards, and that the card readers will be used across all the 28 states where elections will be taking place in Nigeria. Don't let any other person, this is the instruction from the governing or the control or the managed body for elections in Nigeria, and that is INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission. They have said that without the PVC, don't come out tomorrow to come and vote. If you don't have your PVC, don't come out and vote. And if you are not ready to use the card reader, forget about it, because it will have to be used for the elections tomorrow. Another very vital element of his statement yesterday, the commission reaffirms that only voters with genuine PVCs should come out to the polling unit on election day, and that guidelines issued on the use of the card reader for the April 11th will strictly be applied. So if you think, okay, I came out during the presidential election and my thumbprint or my biometric was not confirmed by the machine, or your card didn't work properly, this is another opportunity for you to confirm that there is nothing wrong with your card. So just go out there believing that the card reader, all the glitches that were recorded about the card reader has been taken care of by INEC.
And people should also be mindful of their personal hygiene also still, because I saw a lot of persons who went out. In fact, it was said on the day of the election that I had to personally volunteer to help get spirit and some cotton wool to just clean up. And I expected that INEC on the day of the election should have at least been able to distribute this spirit and cotton wool so people can clean up.
The moment you get to your polling center, just approach and just clean up in preparation for your accreditation.
You see people standing under the sun, and the sun was really hot on that day. Some of them were doing this. So that was also accumulating on their
dirt, on their tongue.
Well, I hope this Professor Atairu Jega has his men watching, so they could also last minute, rushes, which I think that's what we like.